What's the difference between drone attacks that kill innocent people and sniper attacks? The reason I ask, there was a big piece in the paper today about military leaders and law enforcement officials and thousands of other people who went to Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas on Monday to remember Chris Kyle, the retired Navy SEAL sniper who was killed along with his workout buddy by a former Marine who obviously was suffering from PTSD. I don't know. I can't, while I feel sorry for this man's wife and children, and these are serious questions. How do you, his kids are young. His kids are what, 8 and 11 or 8 and 6. How do you explain to children, if it should ever come up, that daddy has killed 160 people and he's done it from far, far away? At the same time, I see this article in the paper about a Congressional Medal of Honor being awarded to a former Army sergeant who truly committed acts of heroism. Now, let's stipulate that there was a reason for this Army sergeant to be in Afghanistan. Okay? We've got to start from that point or the story falls apart. But he was a soldier at a place called Outpost Keating, where there were American soldiers were attacked by 300 Taliban fighters. Now, according to the New York Times, during the day-long attack on Combat Outpost Keating, the sergeant, Clint Romesha, 31-year-old Army Staff Sergeant, showed, according to Barack Obama, conspicuous gallantry in taking out an enemy machine gun position, calling in airstrikes that killed 30 Taliban fighters, laying down covering fire to allow 3 soldiers to run to safety, and scrambling through a fusillade of enemy fire to recover the bodies of fallen American soldiers. When you compare that, you can be opposed to war, as I am. You can feel that the invasion of Afghanistan was a major mistake, which I do. Well, at the same time, you can look at acts of valor within the context of battles, whether those acts of valor are committed by us or not us. Those acts do occur, and certainly if anyone deserved a Congressional Medal of Honor, this guy did. In the meantime, 7,000 people crowd into a football stadium to pay tribute to a man who sat hundreds of yards, if not thousands of yards away from his targets and squeezed off bullets that killed them. And I just have to question, I really do, the Congressional Medal of Honor Army sergeant was face-to-face with the people who he was trying to kill and who were trying to kill him. He was in an actual combat situation where the SEAL sniper, the most effective sniper in the history of all warfare, sat back and plinked people off of rooftops 1,500 or 1,000 yards away. And I don't know. What is that? Is that heroism? He was referred to as a hero. And interestingly, when asked why he joined the military, he said it was because he wanted to He wanted to get revenge for what occurred on September 11th, 2001. Or he wanted, I don't think the word revenge is in there, but where is it? Yeah, oh yeah, here it is. He described his use of being a sniper, his deadly skill, as payback for the 9/11 attacks. But those attacks weren't committed by Afghans. Those attacks were committed, if you accept the official story, by Saudis. So when the American super sniper with 160 kills, to his credit, when he made that statement about it was payback for the 9/11 attacks, what does that mean? I mean, how do you refer to somebody? 7,000 people who attended his memorial service were there because they saw him as a national hero. I wonder if among the crowd Hannity was there, or Beck, or Limbaugh. Those thugs are all war groupies as long as somebody else does the fighting. Remember Hannity's concerts for veterans scam? Remember that? That was investigated, wasn't it? I wonder how that worked out. I remember how Hannity used to travel first class on money collected for veterans. Nice, huh, Sean? I've got to go back to the funeral service or the memorial service for the sniper with the most kills in the history of the U.S. military, Chris Kyle, retired Navy SEAL sniper and author, who, along with his workout buddy, was shot dead by a third military person, a former Marine, who apparently was suffering from PTSD. And the New York Times reported the service. They said it was a service filled with prayers, eulogies, and country tunes sung by Randy Travis. His wife, Taya Kyle, told the audience, quote, "God knew it would take the toughest and softest-hearted man on earth to get a hard-headed, cynical, hard-loving woman like me to see what God needed me to see, and he chose you for the job. He chose well," end quote. Now, we have to remember where Chris Kyle got his 160 kills. It was in Iraq. And if your short-term memory hasn't been completely wiped out, you'll remember that Iraq didn't do anything to us to deserve the invasion. Back in a different time, 1990, 91, when was it? Iraq, according to the official story, tried to steal oil that belonged to Kuwait. And as a result of that, the Saudis got very upset. And the next thing you know, George Herbert Walker Bush and Norman Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell all decided to invade and just wipe out thousands of Iraqis. And then George Herbert Walker Bush's son decided to finish the job that his dad didn't finish and make sure that Saddam Hussein was dead and that the American oil companies got to steal the oil. So that's where Chris Kyle shot 160 people dead. Now, let me ask you something. If we were invaded tomorrow by a force that bombed the living hell out of us before they invaded and rendered our military pretty much incapable of responding, and then this invading force sat a guy up on a rooftop someplace, and every time we tried to resist the invasion, the sniper would shoot us, one after another. What would we consider that person? So the point I'm just trying to make is it's also crazily relative, isn't it? For example, why did we see the Nazis who took from the Jews everything the Jews had, consigned them to ghettos? We saw that as bad and horrible. And then when the extermination started to occur, that was just beyond belief. And yet, the Jews in Israel who take from the Palestinians and send them into ghettos and build walls around them and force them to use roads that they can't use. To the Palestinians, the Israelis are an invading force. Why do we see what the Israeli Jews do to the Palestinians? Why do we see that official U.S. policy as a good thing? I mean, when the Nazis did it to the European Jews, it was seen as a horrible thing. So when an American is trained to sit above it all and plink people off, shoot people dead 160 times or whatever it was, and 7,000 people turn out to honor him as a hero, I guess. According to the New York Times yesterday, the man who murdered Chris Kyle and his friend, allegedly, his name is Eddie Ray Routh. Eddie Ray Routh is just a kid, 25. I mean, no offense to people who are 23, 24, 25, but come on. Routh's name was, according to the New York Times, never spoken during the service. And according to a spokesman for the Dallas Cowboys, 7,000 people attended this service. Relatives and friends sat at the 50-yard line as pictures of Mr. Kyle were displayed on a giant screen. Many of the mourners were Texans who had never met Mr. Kyle. On the stage, and I saw a picture of this in the New York Times, it was just kind of strange. On the stage, a helmet and a vest were draped on a Christian cross behind a pair of boots and 2 rifles. His coffin rested at the center of the field. Motorcycle riders in leather jackets stood at attention at the sidelines holding American flags. So in Iraq, America's super sniper was known for sitting on a rooftop with a bolt-action rifle and killing people, describing his use of his deadly skill as payback for the 9/11 attacks. That's the part that just won't process for me. I mean, I can understand grief. I've had family members die. I've never had a family member be murdered, shot down the way Chris Kyle was. I can understand grief. I can understand the empty feeling that Chris Kyle's widow must feel. She has 2 little kids. I can understand, I understand. I'm not saying I can feel it because I can't, but I can understand the sadness these children are going to feel. I get all that. I really do. But what I can't understand is why a man would go to Iraq and kill 160 people and say it's payback for the attacks of 9/11. The Iraqis didn't do that. The Saudis did that. And as far as the Iraqis that Mr. Kyle shot dead, what were they doing? Were they trying to repel an invader? Us? Were they trying to just raise hell and kill people for the sheer pleasure of it and therefore deserve to die? I mean, what were they doing? Did America's super sniper know? Did he have intelligence on each and every one of those kills, knowing that each and every one of those people was not an individual defending an invasion of his homeland, but a real bad guy who wanted to come to America and kill Americans? Did Mr. Kyle know that? Was he able to make that distinction? I don't know. I don't know what to make of all this. In the meantime, you know, the President of the United States gives the Congressional Medal of Honor to a 31-year-old Army Staff Sergeant who did, in fact, show conspicuous gallantry in Afghanistan in a firefight that was one of the worst of the war. Again, stipulating that there was a reason for us to be in Afghanistan. What was our reason for being in Iraq? So I just have some trouble trying to understand, and I do try to understand, and again, with 7,000 people there, I would imagine that these little rat hustlers like Sean Hannity or Glenn Beck, Limbaugh never goes anywhere because it's hard for him to move around. But Hannity and Beck, who are both war lovers as long as somebody else fights the war, essentially they are cowards down to the bottoms of their feet. When they had a chance to put on the military and go kill folks who were a threat to U.S. corporate interests, they chose not to, as so many right-wingers choose that path. But Hannity took it one step further. He ran a bunch of concerts. Do you remember those several years ago? He traveled around the country, and there was a little flurry of investigation about where the money was going. And the fact that Hannity was traveling first class on everything and taking his entourage with him, and according to published reports, using money that was supposed to go to the veterans or active duty people that Hannity was claiming to support. I mean, it takes a lot of balls to do that. When you are essentially a coward, as Hannity was and is, to align yourself with U.S. military and then set up these concerts. And where did the money go? What happened? Was there a foundation set up? Was there any final accounting? I wonder. Did you ever hear anything? I never did. But it's swine like Hannity and Beck and the rest of these right-wingers who will fawn all over someone who is killed in one of our many conflicts, and they make a big deal about it for all the wrong reasons. I mean, if a Hannity or a Beck or any of these swine on the right, if they really wanted to help the family of a soldier who was killed, then they could very quietly, I don't know, set up a trust fund for that dead soldier's children. You know, do something like that, right? But no, that's not what cowards like Hannity and Beck and the rest of these swine are about. They're not about that at all. They're about using the emotion generated. And the emotion is generated because, I think because people, I'm talking about the general public now, I'm not talking about a dead soldier's family, obviously. They're going to be deeply upset. But the emotion generated for the public who didn't know the soldier, no matter who the soldier was, don't have any connection to him whatsoever, honestly believes that soldier, whoever he or she might be, who is killed in one of America's wars, the general public, to a large extent, genuinely believes that soldier was over there defending freedom or protecting America from what? You know, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney had the job of protecting America there for a while, and they didn't. And as a result of their incompetence, their murderous incompetence, 3,000 people died in New York, and maybe 1 million then died in Iraq. And the reason they died in Iraq was because George W. Bush could make them dead. So, you know, once again, it's you know, I guess it's my fault for not being susceptible to the lies and the deception. Every time I hear Barack Obama or any president give a blanket statement about our heroes in the military, does that include the ones who rape female soldiers? Does that include the ones who indiscriminately murder and kill innocent civilians because they're suffering from some kind of shell shock, they used to call it, or PTSD? Who is the president referring to? If he's referring to the 31-year-old Army Staff Sergeant to whom he gave the Medal of Honor, okay. I'd say that's a genuine hero. Again, stipulating that in a combat situation, let's pause for a second and not say whether or not the U.S. military had a right to be there, and let's just focus on the action that occurred and how that soldier reacted. Did that soldier deserve a Congressional Medal of Honor? I guess by all standards on which the granting of that medal is based, yes. In fact, he did. He fought valiantly. He fought in an outnumbered situation. He rescued his comrades. He brought corpses back so that the bodies could go home. That's a hero. What did Chris Kyle do? He was a sniper. Is that a hero? I don't know anymore. Do you think he's a hero? It just gets very confusing, doesn't it? Unless you're a coward like Sean Hannity or a lying, filthy con artist like Glenn Beck, then it's not confusing at all. It's not the least bit confusing.